Hey, what's up there, everybody? It's Carpo again. It's November 23rd, yeah, 2018. I'm making a video that's the day after Thanksgiving here, and I wanted to talk about patent law. Something so boring that most people have already probably clicked off, like patent. Why are you talking about patents? You know, it's one of those things that I find that I've actually started this video a couple times and I was like, no, you know, that's just rambling. But anyhow, what I'd like to talk about here is the idea that I think that all patent protection and copyright protection, to an extent, should be abolished. And that may seem extreme, but I'd like to give my take on things and why I feel this way. Not copyright protection within writing. In other words, if someone steals your book, you know, verbatim, or someone, you know, steals your property something that you wrote and tries to republish your book, that's a difficult thing because, you know, if a person really worked hard, I'm a musician, okay? And when we had a band, I used to think, what if somebody stole our entire album and got it copyrighted before we could? Sure, we could go to court and fight it and say, no, look, we have evidence that we recorded it on this date, but it wouldn't matter if you didn't have the money to fight it in court. And even if you did win, you're wasting your time, money, and resources to try to protect something that you created. And so, you know, this really all started back, my first experience, a little taste of this, was Lars Ulrich from Metallica back in the 90s, 98 I think, or right around 2000, but 20 years ago, there was this big ruckus about Napster, and to anybody my age, it just seems like yesterday, but to the kids of today, they didn't really experience the Napster craze, but are well aware of it. It was the first time you could get free music from the internet. It was unbelievable. Like, this was something totally new. And naturally, you know, bands and mostly record companies started freaking out about it, and they wanted it shut down because they were going to lose their money. If you fast forward 20 years, they had to just deal with it. They had to compromise. They had to say, well, no matter what we do to fight this scourge of stealing free music, no matter what we say, it's just going to make it worse. We have to find a different way to make money. And so most bands realize today that you make a lot of your money off of the tour, off of merchandise, and that selling albums is really not a huge money maker anymore. And I have mixed feelings on that. So that's just music. But let's talk about something like patent, you know, copyright law for like Disney, for example. Disney had copyrights on a lot of their things, and I'm going to get to patents here, but they had Disney, I don't know, a couple decades ago, their copyright was about to expire for Mickey Mouse. And coincidentally enough, they had actually stole Mickey Mouse. The Steamboat Willie, the first episode of Mickey Mouse, was actually stole from like Steamboat Billy or something from the 1918 or the earlier 1900s. So it wasn't original. It was actually, the idea was taken, put into a cartoon, and then this character was created. When Mickey Mouse's copyright was about to expire, they lobbied Congress to extend copyrights indefinitely, basically, for them, allowing them to retain rights over the Disney characters. Which you would think, after that many years, I think copyright law allowed like 50 or 60 years, whatever it was, before a person could use that, which made total sense. If a person invented something, they would have 50 years to make income off of it, do whatever they wanted with it before it was in the public domain. So, fast forward to today. Why copyright is not my main point here. I know that it's tied into that. What this means is intellectual property. I created this, I wrote it, and as a musician, a writer, a thinker, I understand how it would feel to have your information and ideas stolen, your quotes taken and whatnot. But let's talk about material items. Let's say a person invents something, a car, and they want protection on this. You know, they get a patent on a particular part of a car. The idea of patents originally was that a person could invent something, go down and say, I've invented this, and I would like protection so I can manufacture it. And that society would say, well, okay, we'll protect you for a limited amount of time so you can get your product on the market to try to help humanity and to try to make your income. If the person didn't do that, then it should move on to someone else who could. Let me tell you as a brief side note, the reason why, what inspired me to make this video. I've studied this a lot in the past and wanted to talk about it, but last week I came up with, I was sitting on my couch and I was thinking about my speakers, my stereo, my whole stereo system, listening to like Pink Floyd or something. Just kicking back, and I was like, how could I improve the music? And my natural instinct is to like put my hands up to like this to my ears and to turn them and cup them until I get just the right sound. And it can actually change the entire feeling of the music. You know, the whole way that your ears, you know, hear music is based on, you know, just pushing my ears forward a little bit changes the way that I hear myself. So common sense says, well, why don't I invent a little head thing that has these little parabolic reflectors that people can adjust to get the perfect sound. In other words, it sounds cheesy, but if people have already spent thousands, if not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on a really nice stereo, why not spend another 40, 50 bucks on a little awesome pair of adjustable ear things to change the way that you hear it? Only an audiophile would understand. But I thought of the idea and I was like, I better Google it, because I bet I bet somebody's already invented one. And it was only like the third search I did where it came up with a patent for basically a picture of a a character wearing the exact thing that I came up with in my mind, slightly different. You know, theirs was curved differently, but I thought this patent is from the 90s. It's over 20 to 30 years old. It's never been utilized. I've never seen one in the stores. And I thought, how annoying that as a person who thinks, I have an idea, I want to invent it, and I want to patent it, but, or rather sell it. I wouldn't want to patent it. I just don't care about that. People would say, you're a fool. You should patent things. And I guess if I really had something important, of course I would, because that's the system that I'm put into. I'm forced to get it patented in order to not get screwed. But I guess maybe it's a pipe dream to think that people could be honest. Businesses could be honest and do things the right way and not mislabel things and mismark things and bullshit people. But that's the reality of the world we live in. So here's the part of patent law that becomes a problem. The idea was that if you give people protection, they will come up with ideas and innovate and create for society new medicines, new inventions. And during the industrial era, this made total sense. But today, it's totally fucking you over. You and me. Patent law for especially pharmaceuticals is what keeps drug prices high, keeps generic companies from producing their own. Even when a patent expires for a drug companies lobby to delay allowing generic companies to use it. And let's say in the technology sector, I read an article that said that people who want to produce new silicon wafers or certain components in the tech industry to make computers have to pay up to $200 million of, right up front in order to just use the technology. It's a complete racket, which prevents small people from saying, I have an invention, I want to make this publicly available. And this is something that affects you and me, I mean, all the time, but we don't realize it. So many people have amazing ideas. You know, for all the shit that we give each other, humans are pretty fucking intelligent. We have a lot to contribute. And some of the inventors just become, it's just a daunting task, and they just become overwhelmed and they give up on it. So we have, if you're not aware of patent trolls, you must know. Patent trolls are some of the worst people on earth. These are folks who find an idea or steal an idea, and then they patent the idea without actually inventing anything. But they patent an idea and they sit back and they wait. Could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And then somebody invents something and it has the same type of hardware. And they sue them after they become successful in order to make money and take, hey, we just want a percentage off what you made. Even though this person just had an idea but never actually did anything with it. And that's part of my solution, which I'd probably do at the end, but I should mention now, one of the things is that I would like to see patents, not just, if patent rights aren't abolished, at the very least, say that people should be forced to come up and show their fucking invention before they can patent it. I don't think anybody should be able to patent an idea. I really think that you should have proof of it before it's patented. If you're smart enough, if you're innovative enough, if you have enough money to invent something amazing, you should be able to hide it long enough to where you can, you know, say, okay, this works. The system's not perfect, I get that. You know, I don't have a pipe dream that there's some giant, you know, building where everyone can go and show their invention to someone who understands whether that invention really works or not. Because that's another problem, you know, a person can come and say, look, this is a free energy device, it works, I need to patent it. And, you know, show them some magic trick. I mean, patenting is a delicate issue. But there should be a use it or lose it rule. At the very least, if you get a patent on something, you should be forced to utilize and invent and put that on the market within at least 5 years. Or else somebody else can utilize that. And if you can't prove that you put it on the market, then and you didn't invent anything yourself, then you're really just a patent troll. You're just wasting everybody's time. Because I think that the intentions were noble at the beginning, but now it's hindering innovation. And I'm not the only one. There are a lot of colleges and resource centers who completely have done research and agree on that, that it's patents actually hurt us more than help us now. So you have to prove it works. And the thing is that it's a bold claim to say we should abolish patents. People would say, well, some will suffer and lose their, you know, what they've been working on. And I totally agree with that. I think that if tomorrow we abolish patent rights, some people would suffer, but very few. I mean, if you're really creative enough to pull your invention off. The thing is, I believe that eliminating patent rights today would allow these little guys who are people who really want to change the world and really have great vision and want to do something awesome to do it without hindrance from somebody suing them just for an idea. Another note on this is that all humans that come up with ideas today, you cannot, no human alive today, you know, some arrogant 30-year-old asshole who thinks that, well, I came up with this idea and it's mine. I say, well, you know, who invented the circuits and the processors and the chips that allowed you to come up with your invention? And that's something that we all have. In other words, all of us in our families, all of our histories connect in some way. You know, my grandfather fought in, say, World War II in order to protect certain assets so the U.S. could move forward in certain ways. I'm not defending the war. I think it was complete bullshit. I guess what I'm trying to say is that even if your father, your grandfather, your mother worked in a factory, a grocery store, or did any type of any work, we all contributed to allowing society to function. Even the fast food worker who is feeding the guy from Silicon Valley who comes through to get a burger to, you know, get a quick meal because he has to finish this crazy invention he's working on, whatever it might be. As cheesy as it sounds, you know, we all are parts of the puzzle, and we owe it to each other to give the respect of, if some poor guy comes up with an invention, to give him the respect to say, hey, show me it works, and don't worry about getting sued by a team of lawyers who's just waiting to exploit some weakness in the patent system. Complete bullshit. So the drug companies are probably the worst on this. Patents on pharmaceuticals are just outrageous, and I understand that it takes research and time, and I always try to give credit to the reality of the situation. I know that it's not like these drug companies don't spend a lot of money, but I've looked at the numbers, okay? I'm writing a book about it, for God's sake. I'm halfway through a book about the pharmaceutical industry from the beginning until now, for the last 130, 40 years, from cocaine, you know, in Milltown and various pharmaceuticals, and laudanum, all the way up to, you know, the 60s, and a variety of different, you know, psychoactive compounds that were tested on the crazy population, which aren't crazy. I didn't mean that offensively, but rather to say that anybody who had even hysteria, which is the same as hysterectomy, it's a female condition that they believed was caused by females going crazy. You know, the history of our medical industry is kind of fucked. And the way that we've treated patients. So we have this whole idea that medical patents should hold some special reverence. Like, well, this person invented this machine, you know, that heals cancer, so therefore, cheers to them. They should get a patent right on it and allow you to charge you, you know, $100,000 per treatment. You know, I guess I have a personal interest in this. My father died of cancer, my grandmother died of cancer, and my other grandfather died of cancer. And, you know, I know that there were probably other options if we weren't fighting over who can get the first patent on a treatment. And, you know, how much we can charge for chemotherapy, fill ourselves with chemicals. But, you know, that's my bias, my personal bias. If I were to say one thing about patents, it would be, fine, if you want to allow people to have a monopoly on an idea, then give it a limit, which means no renewals on any type of patent. Once it's passed, you say you have 5 years to produce, 10 years to profit, and then it's over. I mean, even 10 years on an invention can make you a lot of money if you're smart. Here's the thing, if you're not smart enough to make it happen in that time, let somebody else do it. Because right now, I believe we're at a crossroads where we have to smarten up. Which means that we have to quit bullshitting ourselves, you know, and thinking that it's all about this, you know, suit and tie mentality, that we're really, like, you know, working towards something great in this country. I would ask anybody, what the fuck are we working towards in the world, but in this nation, especially in the US? You know, where do we expect to go? What do we really want? You know, everybody wants Alexa and some bullshit voice-activated home system to, you know, oh, pick my songs, Alexa, do this, do that. You know, it's all nonsense. Most of us don't want that, and most of us don't have that. There's a small part of the population who buys into that bullshit, and if you want to have a device in your house listening in on you all the time, so be it. But there's another patent right. There's another way to bust you for thinking outside the box, you know. Yeah, they've already been confiscated as evidence in certain cases. When a person got busted for assault, they took their Alexa. It's being used as evidence because it records everything. I know that sounds off subject, but really it's about patent rights and the idea that we're all watching each other, that we're all listening in to make sure that nobody's doing anything wrong, but also we're willingly doing it. So I think I've covered everything. You know, Disney, they're probably some of the worst corrupt bastards in this whole copyright side of things, but when it comes to patents, it's anybody's guess. Several different companies, a lot of different people working to, you know, there are literally entire, you know, rooms, if not warehouses, full of people sitting on the internet looking to hit copyright strikes on people for ideas that they think might conflict with their own. Instead of spending that time and that money to put it to use and to invent these things, it's cheaper to actually sue somebody because most people can't do anything about it or fight for it. So they pay up. It's kind of like hackers. A lot of hackers, they hack a small community, and the people find that it's cheaper to police department, you know, public utility, whatever it might be, and it's easier for them to pay up 10, 20 grand to do it than to go through the bullshit trying to get it back. And that's how it was with the patent holders. You know, it's easier for them to just, you know, pay out some fine for using the wrong, you know, material or idea. So in essence, if I were to consolidate all of this, I would say fuck patent rights. Don't allow people to consolidate and own ideas. We as humans are moving forward and need change. We need to help one another, and we need to find a way to avoid this whole idea that it's us versus them, and come together, but at the same time be individuals. And I understand we have to feed our own. So that's what I got. I rambled on for 20 minutes. Can't help it. Sorry. Talk to y'all later. Have a wonderful day. And remember that if you, I guess, if I were to let you take anything away from this, it would be to do your research on patent trolls and patent, lies and bullshit, as they've been pulling for a long time. So you're armed with the information. And if you have an invention, don't be afraid from those bastards. We need a lot of innovation in this world. And people have a patent on everything, and they're waiting to pounce. So, what are your solutions? Do you have any ideas? I would say abolish patent rights, or at least give a 5-year period, or let's put it this way, you can get a patent on something. You have 1 year to produce a prototype of that, and 5 years to get it to function. 20 years to utilize that, and then it should go into the public domain like everything else. Why does Disney, the billion dollar company, the one company that is richer than any other, it seems like, why are they the ones to get so upset about other people wanting to use Mickey Mouse? It's greed. We live in a greedy world. It's pathetic, it's sad, and it's disappointing. It makes me sad inside. I feel trapped. I tend to kind of hide out, in my life with my family, and at the same time looking at the outside world through my window here, and I care so much about other people, but I just don't know what to do. And I see so much change could happen if it weren't for these legal hurdles we have to overcome. So I want to turn this video off here, and maybe at 22 minutes and 22 seconds. I don't know.